I'm here for Sam Lavallo, who's a bit under the weather. However, I must say it's always good to be known as Regis Fill-In. So thank you for being here. I would like to do the impossible, if I may. First of all, congratulations to Jean DeVivier Brown for providing us such a stellar dais today. Well, you've already broken the rule of no applause until I mention all the names, but let's try it and see what happens. Beginning on my far right, your far left, Edward Asner. Morgan Fairchild. Ava Freeze. Chuck Freeze. Of course, Jean DeVivier Brown. Stacy Keach is down there. He moved right off my sheet of paper all the way to the end. I don't know how he did that. Ernie Borgnine. Michelle Lee. Hal Cantor. We had a former chairman of the board.
And Stacy.
Oh, I mentioned Mr. Keach a bit ago, I believe, that he moved all the way down to the end. Yes. Stacy Keach, star of one of the best news series on television, Lights Out. Charles Kappelman is the gentleman responsible for something we're very pleased with. That is the Ralph Edwards table. Ralph Edwards, a founding member of this organization and chairman of the board. And of course, there are students who are regaled here, and we have them with us today. And Charles Kappelman will explain who they are, where they come from.
You won't applaud when you hear what I have to say. This is finals week at UCLA, and things are all messed up and things are busy. We invited 7, 3 responded, and they're not here yet. So, procrastinos dies ad cogitandum dabit. Never to do today what you can put off till tomorrow. But I would like to introduce 2 celebrities who are here at table 7. It was this man's early involvement with NBC TV that helped open a new market in America. In 1963, NBC Enterprises acquired the rights to a Japanese animated series and consulted with him on how to market it. He took the footage and made a pilot episode, eventually leading to a long-running series, Astro Boy, and that was the start. Meet veteran television and motion picture producer and writer Fred Laird. Would you stand, please? All right, thank you. And all right, and he's been keeping KIIS-FM radio listeners current on traffic conditions for the past 25 years, mornings from 6 to 9, and flying a state-of-the-art turbine-powered Jet Ranger helicopter. He covers Southern California. Pacific Pioneer Broadcaster, Second Vice President, Commander Chuck Street. And I would like to express our appreciation to John Couch of Ralph Edwards Productions for making it all possible. John, would you stand, please? Thank you. All right, and now on with the program.
Now to Christopher Thomas and the Diamond Circle Award. Chris Thomas, here he is.
Hi, hello. Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Chuck. At each luncheon, Pacific Pioneer Broadcasters honors a member who's made an important contribution to broadcasting. Today's honoree has had an astounding 41-year career in radio and television. She's an executive, a scheduler, editor, video librarian, and a writer. Her career began in 1955 at WTOP-TV in Washington, D.C., as assistant to the producer of radio news and variety shows. Then on to WDBO-TV in Orlando, Florida, as an assistant to the production director. setting up station feeds of the Cape Kennedy space launches. In 1965, our gal arrived in Los Angeles and worked her way to KNXT-TV, and before long promoted to executive secretary to the general manager. This led to CBS Television City, scheduling, the hub of the wheel. Her assignment, supervisor of production facilities and liaison between network and outside production companies. She also scheduled the talent, the technicians, cameras, booms, lights, dressing rooms, videotape machines, etc. for shows that were starring Bob Hope, Carol Burnett, the Smothers Brothers, and the groundbreaking All in the Family, just to name a few. Also intrigued by a good challenge, our gal accepted a position at 20th Century Fox Studios in the newly organized promotion and product placement department. Once again, scheduling, this time Coca-Cola and cars for movies and television. In 1996, she retired from Fox Studios as Senior Executive Assistant for Worldwide Productions. Still active in entertainment, and after 5 years as president, our honoree currently serves as membership chairperson for the CBS Alumni Association. It is with great pleasure that Pacific Pioneer Broadcasters present the Diamond Circle Award to Peggy Davis. Peggy will be escorted to the stage by Larry Vanderveen and her daughter, Penny.
So many stories and so little time. I don't even know where to start. I started in television in 1956 in Washington, D.C., and I was head of office services. So when they were going to have a Jimmy Dean show for network, they said, get her to be the assistant to the producer because she knows all the facilities. So I worked on the Jimmy Dean show on Saturdays, and that was gravy money. You know, when you're working for the network, it's a whole different thing. And so it was live. It was live television. I know a lot of you know about this. And I was assigned to Jimmy during the show, and I'd have to change clothes, well, sweaters or whatever. And, you know, we had a very, very small studio because all the studios were set up for news interviews and that sort of thing. We had one makeup room, and the dressing room was the bathroom. And we had singers and musicians and guest stars and everything. It was just really interesting and embarrassing sometimes. So I would take care of last-minute things, and like one time they said, we want to get some peanuts for this push cart. And I ran over to the grocery store, and I got all the peanuts I could, and they were just in the big basket and everything. I'm in line, and people are kind of giving me the eye. And I said, well, they're for my pet elephant. And so it was a fun job, and it was live. And they had a commercial set in another studio, and we would run down the hall. I'd be giving Jimmy another shirt, tying an apron on the girl singer, and they would slide across the linoleum like this, and the camera would come on, they do the commercial, and then they sprint back to the studio. But I know a lot of you know about live television. And I left we moved to Orlando, Florida. And the only job that the CBS affiliate had was film editor. I hadn't even touched a piece of film because I'm coming from unions, no unions down there. So I'm supposed to put commercials in shows like Mannix and stuff like that on the 16 millimeter. And they said, if it doesn't already have a break, just put the film up like this and look for the straight line. That's where you break it. So that was being a film editor. And if the boom man didn't show up for Romper Room, I was a boom person. And one time, one of the techs was in the bathroom when it came time for a break in the football, and I had to switch a break. So I'm telling you, that is the best place to get an education. It's a small studio. The really, really exciting thing about working in Orlando was it was the beginning of the space program. And there was no security or anything. We all knew the astronauts. I mean, we partied with them. We had a beach party one time. Wally Schirra stops by and has a beer with us. And I was usually left when there was going to be a launch. I was left at the station to set up the feeds. And I set the feeds all up, and sure enough, about 5:30, the helicopter would land right in front in the parking lot. And Chuck Von Friend would be running in with the film, because there was no tape then or anything like that, or remotes, and he would narrate the film. The problem with that was we had a kiddo show, a lot of children in the studio, and I'd have to keep them quiet while he's narrating, because we had one film chain and one studio. And it was interesting and fun. And I left there in '65 and came out to Los Angeles, and I got a job. Bob Wood hired me he was the general manager of KNXT, and I told him I wasn't the secretary, and he said, oh, okay, and I just filled in for people, and then when his secretary was getting married and had to leave, he made me his secretary. I went through stationery. I had to have him empty the trash baskets at least twice a day. I wasn't the secretary. But what happened 2 days into that time, every morning he'd come in and say, hi, Pago, what's going on? And he came in the second day I was there, and I said, what about the news wagon being burned and turned over in Watts? Well, the riots weren't only at Watts. They were in our newsroom. I mean, and we had to send information by Western Union, because apparently teletype wasn't secure. And that's how no fax machines or anything like that. So that was really exciting time. And when I finished my stint there as a secretary, I said, well, how did I do? And he said, well, you made a great cup of coffee. So, but he was a friend. He was a great guy. From KNXT, I went to TV City and stupidly accepted a position in scheduling. Does everybody know about scheduling? I met Carol O'Connor one time at an event, and he was holding my hands, and he says, and what department are you in? And I said, scheduling. He says, poor dear. And I'm thinking, God, everybody knows about this. But it was fun. It was a great time, and it was all during the late 60s and early 70s. I left there in '76. And I mean, Carol Burnett, Smothers Brothers, and we worked long hours, and sometimes we'd have to stay there if a show wasn't finished in time. We'd have to stay till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes, because there'd be a turnover, because it was so busy. And one of the sad things was that we covered Robert Kennedy's assassination. And I was in the booth for 36 hours with all of us. The nurse would come in and give us B12 shots or whatever kind of shot it was, I didn't know. And pizzas, pizzas and B12. Anyway, I was liaison, and I am a coordinator, scheduler, and liaison. And I guess that's the way you could say that. But when I left, they replaced me with 3 people. And when I left, they wouldn't let me out of scheduling, so Cappy, Charles Kappelman, that was just up here, kept giving me a longer title. So I was supervisor in charge of all production facility scheduling for the CBS television network, which was a lot longer than the numbers on my paycheck. But it was a fun time, and then I went to Fox and worked in worldwide promotions and product placement and that sort of thing. And it was the first time that we were doing that, because usually the production would just, film would ask for things like Coca-Cola and that sort of delivered to them, and they said, we'll put it in there. But we we were in the first time that we asked them to pay us. And that was the beginning of product placement. And Sony Television, if you want a Sony Television on the set, then you need to pay us. And that was a sort of a pioneer type thing. And I know that, that Chris said something about the CBS alumni. I was president for 5 years, and then I stepped down, and then the membership chairman resigned, and so I'm membership chairman. And these people that I work with are pioneers of television that I have, the members mostly. And it's like a family. And we were like a family when I worked at TV City. We were all like a family then. So I'm still with my family. And in closing, I wanted to say that I am very honored and humbled to receive this award. I didn't believe Chris when he called me. I said, who is this? Come on. Anyway, thank you very much.
Here's your plaque. We have just one other item. The CBS Alumni Club has sent over a floral arrangement, and Peggy's daughter, will let you all know what's in the note.
Mom, I just want to start by saying thank you for all the fun over all these years, because her TV family became my TV family, and it's been very fun and exciting. And my babysitters were Carol Burnett and Cher and Jonathan Winters and all the guys down in tape. So I've really had a lot of fun, Mom. And somebody very special to Peggy has sent flowers for her today, and I'll read the card. Peggy, here's looking at you, kid. Your great sense of humor and the many laughs we had together at TV City is truly memorable. Love and congratulations, Tom Richmond. This was during the Cappy Kappelman days, and I hope it's okay, Cappy, that you just found out that I was babysat by Cher and Carol Burnett. So thanks again, Mom, for all the fun.
Congratulations. Well, let's find out if there's anyone who couldn't quite make it today and perhaps sent a note. Jean DeVivier Brown has the answer to that.
Who hopefully can get up.
You want some help? You want an arm? Hank? There you go.
Gee, I miss being helped out by Ron Ely, who was here the last time and helped me out. We have several notes from people who wanted to be here but couldn't for one reason or another. The first one is from Robert Forster. He says, "Hey Chuck, one of the fondest memories in my career is the making of your movie Peacemaker. I wanted that picture badly, and you said yes. My warmest congratulations on a great honor today. Your Peacemaker pal, Robert Forster." Bob is working on a one-man show he'll be touring in, so he's really been tied up. From the producer and creator of World's Funniest Videos, Mr. Vin DeBona, if you had to use a calculator to measure most men's careers, some would be in inches, most in feet, and a precious few in yards. But when it comes to Chuck Freeze, you better go down to the hardware store and buy a Stanley 25-foot tape measure, because Chuck's accomplished more and done it better than almost anyone around these parts. He's first a great husband to Ava, a wonderful father and grandfather to his family, but as you all know, Chuck's the godfather to our television movie business. The man's produced more successful and unique television movies, over 120, than anyone in this room. Moreover, anyone in this town. It's been my honor and pleasure to work closely with Chuck at the Caucus for Producers, Writers, and Directors, where Chuck's drive, foresight, and tenacity have made the organization a successful voice for all of us independents in the television business. Without Chuck, we might just be a bunch of guys griping about the poor state of our industry. With his steady hand, we have become an organization to be listened to and recognized in both Washington and Hollywood. And he spearheaded the Caucus Foundation, a branch of our group dedicated to scholarships for students of ethnicity, garnering close to $1 million for our talented young filmmakers. I am so lucky to say Chuck's my best friend and so well deserving of being honored today. Most sincerely, Ben DeBona. And from a lady you've seen in a wonderful film produced by Chuck. Hey gang, here's my message. Good afternoon to you all. I hope you're enjoying yourselves very much. I've been asked to make some remarks about Chuck and Ava, so here goes. For a while, I thought Ava was the producer of Troop Beverly Hills. I was very much aware of her presence at meetings, rehearsals, and on the set. She's got to be the most glamorous and best-dressed producer in film history. And then I found out about Chuck. Now that I know about all of his knowledge and experience, it makes sense that his help would be welcome. Well, the two of them produced one of my favorite films, and evidently I'm not the only one. Little girls, big girls, old girls, and guys have been coming up to me for years, telling me how much they love the film. I nod and smile and give them the Freeze address so that they can tell Chuck and Ava personally. I congratulate them both on their career and personal successes, and I offer Chuck special congrats on winning the Career Achievement Award today. Best wishes to all, Shelley Long. And that's it. Enjoy your lunch. Oh, before I leave, I wanted you to see some sample scenes of Chuck Freeze productions. Steve?
A respected master of production, Freeze is regularly called upon for a highly regarded expertise that attracts top-notch talent in front of as well as behind the camera, and the ability to successfully mount large-scale productions has been a Freeze hallmark.
You can't escape the nightmare without me, and I can't escape without you. I'm not like you! Yes, you are. You've always known it.
Good storytelling often repeats a dramatic chapter of history.
Arriving combatant ships are not to be reported, sir.
How about non-arriving combatant ships, Lieutenant? All of us! We're gonna make it!
Sometimes offers a chilling true story.
I can't live without my kids, Mom. I'm your woman, Lou.
I just don't want to be a daddy.
Karen's full of chills. Basically, it was a relief to have her gone.
I want everybody to know the truth.
Or echoes real life.
Seize the moment, Lyndon. Seize the moment.
What we have here is an exercise in raw power.
We'll show that cowboy what the Kennedys are really made of.
You be on the team for this one, and I'm going to hold you to that.
And a classic tale is never more vivid than rendered for the screen.
He said, we are from the third planet, Earth.
Maybe they're allowing us to start over here.
like the cops and robbers who come back from the dead.
Who is this guy?
Going somewhere?
I found a place in the desert's got our name written all over it. Got gambling.
What the hell can you do in the desert?
Millions I want to make. Billions when we're through. You want this place. It's my place. This place I built. I invented it, Vito.
The Italian mobs, the Jewish mobs, we share.
You see what I see? Future, pal.
This one and this one. Out. I'll take the rest.
We're looking for a real no-nonsense woman. Are you drying your nails or do you have a question?
You know, about the cookies. I know it's customary in order to raise funds to sell cookies door to door, and that's adorable. But wouldn't it save time and a little shoe leather if we just had a star-studded telethon?
Who are you?
Phyllis Neffler, Troop Beverly Hills.
5, 6, 7, 8.
We're the girls from Beverly Hills.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Shopping is our greatest skill.
5, 6, 7, 8.
We will fight and try real hard.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Leave behind our credit card.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Beverly Hills, what a thrill. Beverly Hills, what a thrill. Beverly Hills.
Let me present Ava Fries. She's become a woman of all seasons for Los Angeles. She's been an actress, a spokesperson, a teacher of theater arts, teacher of literature, also a writer and producer. Troop Beverly Hills was about her own experiences with the Beverly Hills Girl Scout Troop. The Center Theater Group, People Assisting the Homeless, the American Film Institute, Museum of Contemporary Art, and the National Museum of Women in the Arts have all benefited from her involvement. In fact, she's been honored by NOW, the National Organization of Women, for her contribution to the community and to the arts. Ava Fries.
Gosh, that makes me sound so good, I'd like to meet me myself. Well, Chuck asked me to talk about being a female producer in, 20 years ago, 22 years ago. And I have a little advice. Number one, marry a man who's as bright and successful as Chuck Fries. Number two, have a good idea. Number three, tell him about it. And number four, this is my theory. It's called the rollover, darling theory. And you just say, roll over, darling. I'd like to tell you about this movie idea I had. Being a woman and a producer over 20 years ago was not easy. It was still a man's world. No Stacy Snyder, no Paula Wagner. That was still to come. So I was having one hell of a time controlling Troop Beverly Hills as a woman producer. Now, Chuck, he takes a lot of credit, and he deserves some. But I was out there for 55 days in my Nikes, over on practical locations and sand dunes, and with tough guys to battle. But this was my life, and I knew it best, and I wasn't going to let any director foul it up. You thought I was going to say something else. I was on the set at 7 a.m. Dailies were every night from 7 to 8, and then dinner at Musso and Frank's, and then on the phone to Peter McGregor Scott, my line producer. Now, that son of a gun gave me the hardest time. I would go in at 7 a.m. at call time, and I would see a sign that said budget meeting, 6:15. Like I didn't know about budgeting. I was so mad at him, and I would yell at him, and I would scream at him, and then I would go home and cry and get Chuck on him. So that's one way to do it. One great gig that was on my movie was the Teamster that sat in the chair by my RV wagon and read books between getting me fresh cheese and making sure I had Chivas Regal at 4 o'clock. And I would need it by then. That guy was a prince, and he treated me like a queen. Only Chuck can do better, because he truly is a talented and experienced producer, and he did finance that script after I said, "Roll over, darling." I want to talk to you about my movie. He's a rollover, pushover kind of guy, and he really deserves this award. Thank you.
This lady was born in Dallas, the daughter of a high school English teacher. Her first acting job was doubling for Faye Dunaway in Bonnie and Clyde. She's been known as Patsy Ann, Jennifer Pace in Search for Tomorrow, briefly as Jenna Wade in Dallas, Constance Weldon Carlisle on Flamingo Road, Jordan Roberts on Falcon Crest, and yes, even Mrs. Robinson, the stage version of The Graduate. She's guest starred in too many shows to mention, one of the most sought-after motion picture and television actresses in Hollywood. Oh yes, except for our own John Harlan, she is the loveliest member of the AFTRA Los Angeles Board of Directors. Morgan Fairchild.
And I'll give that one to John. When Chuck asked me to speak today, you know, all these memories come flooding back. I owe a career to Chuck. When I first got out here, I started in the theater when I was 10 in Dallas. Bonnie and Clyde was my first movie I worked on, but I grew up in the theater. And had already spent a lot of time in New York and doing a daytime soap in New York, and had done a lot of work there. And when I got out here, I'd been here 3 months when I got a phone call from the agent to go over and audition for a TV movie. So I was very excited because this would be my first TV movie. And I read the script, and it was kind of a takeoff on the movie Carrie, which had been out a couple of years before and was very popular. So I got over there, and the Carrie character, the telekinetic character, had already been cast. But there were two other characters. There was the head of the sorority, who is a nasty piece of work, and the sister of the Carrie character, who's torn between wanting to be in the sorority and her love for her sister. So I go in and I read, and this lovely gentleman says, "Okay, you got the part." And I said, "Well, this is the bad guy. I'd really like to read for the sister because I think she has more gray areas." And he says, "Well, we want a brunette." I said, "Well, I'll wear a wig. Can I read for the other part? Because it's got more gray areas." So we went back and forth like this for a while. And finally, you know, naive young actress, he says, honey, you haven't been here very long, have you? And I said, no, sir, I've only been here 3 months. He said, let me explain something to you. I can find an ingenue anywhere, but a good bitch is hard to find. So I said, thank you so much for the job. I did Initiation of Sarah. I figured, it's kind of this horror movie and nobody will see it. It was the #1 TV movie of the year in '78 and started me on my road to bitchdom, which has been difficult to break ever since. I had so many parts. I did Merc and Mindy playing the evil one. I did Flamingo Road with no audition. Everybody just handed me things because, as Chuck Freeze wisely pointed out, a good bitch is hard to find. So, and then I did a lovely movie called Robin Hood with him, with George Segal and Roddy McDowell and Janet Sussman and Sir Michael Hardy and all these wonderful actors over in England. And Segal and I had these houses out in the country, and we were shooting in a 12th century castle. And every morning I'd go to work and come over the hill in my car and look down on this 12th century castle and think, boy, I love showbiz. This is my idea of Hollywood. And we had so much fun. And I just want to thank Chuck and Ava. They have been such a wonderful team and in tandem. I was at their wedding a few years back now. And other than maybe Gable and Lombard, a couple of well-known Hollywood couples, these two are one of the greatest love stories in this town. Their philanthropy is well known. They give so much of themselves. They have been such creative forces in the town, too, with all the different, as he says, Godfather of TV movies and the movies that they've both done. And just such a wonderful couple together. It always makes me happy to see them because they take such joy in each other and in their families and such joy in giving back to the community. So I just want to say thank you, Chuck, because without you, I would not be known as a great bitch. I might have played ingenues my whole life. But I ended up getting some great parts, including Mrs. Robinson, because this guy set me on that road many years ago. I want to thank you, and you guys couldn't have picked a better person to give this award to. Thank you.
Lady was cutting my hair, Suzanne, recently, and she thinks I know everything because we were talking about the show I mentioned a bit ago, a thing called Lights Out on FX, and Stacy Keach's name came up, and she said, my mother went to high school with him. I said, oh, your mother went to Van Nuys High, right? She said, yeah, how'd you know? I said, well, he was class president. I said, but did you also know that he attended the Yale School of Drama? Did you know that he became a Fulbright Scholar at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art? She's still kind of shaking over that tiny response I gave her. Who else could go from a rookie cop in the New Centurions to a priest in The Exorcist, to Sergeant Stedenko in 2 Cheech and Chong films, and then on to Barabbas in Jesus of Nazareth, Jesse's brother Frank James on television? Well, he was Hemingway, he was Mike Hammer, among countless other roles. And again, he's co-starring in that hot show, Lights Out. His father was a loyal and long-standing member and board member of Pacific Pioneer Broadcasters, Stacy Keach Sr. With us today is Stacy Keach Jr.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Chuck for inviting me here today to share this event with all of you. This wonderful organization was very close to my father, who was a proud member for many years, and I was personally very deeply moved and grateful to have been honored by you all back in 1999. And now I'm forced to share the spotlight with one of the most prolific producers in the history of television. Well, that's all right. My ego can take it. I can stomach it. I had the corned beef. Chuck, you are a miracle. The contributions you have made to our industry have become legend, and I am eternally grateful to you for giving me one of the best roles of my career. The 1991 movie Mission of the Shark documented the true story of the sinking of the USS Indianapolis. And Chuck cast me in the role of Captain McVeigh, whose ill-fated luck caused him to be court-martialed for not taking the necessary precautions to avoid being sunk by a Japanese submarine. 880 men went overboard, and only 316 avoided death by drowning or being eaten by sharks. And we filmed the scenes aboard ship on the USS Alabama, but for the scenes in the water, we went and we shot in the Bahamas. And as Chuck writes in his History of Television book, quote, "I was familiar with the Bahamas because we shot a lot of underwater footage there when we did Sea Hunt for Ziv in the 50s and Primus at Metromedia in the 70s. The first thing we did when we got to the Bahamas was put up a sign, 'Extras needed.' Show business, right? Well, they came by the hundreds, students and locals and vacationers. We put them on boats, gave them props and bits of uniform, took them out and dumped them in the water. It all came together beautifully. It was an expensive shoot, but when Larry Friedman created a cutout of the ship with a headshot of Stacy Keach, foreign sales surged. Well, the headshot of me that Chuck refers to was that of a beleaguered actor in the water waving a white handkerchief and shouting for help. You see, Chuck doesn't tell you in the book that the waters we were filming in, where the men were eaten by sharks, they were actually very dangerous. Stuntmen with underwater gear were swimming around with fins attached to their backs, and they attracted the real sharks. So Chuck ordered the netting be placed around the perimeter of the area where we were shooting, and even so, one morning we arrived to discover that one ambitious shark had bitten through the netting, leaving a gaping hole for his brothers and sisters. The hole was repaired and shooting was resumed with repercussions, but the fear and the trepidation was real. I mean, there was no acting necessary. But looking back, it was a great adventure and a totally gratifying experience. It was also very special for me to be able to act with my dad, as Chuck cast him as my dad in the movie. And as I said, it is definitely one of the highlights of my career. It's a great story and one that needed to be told. Chuck, thank you for your tenacity, your perseverance, and your courage to bring this wonderful film into our lives. And thank you for all the great films you've given us. May you give us many more. And I'm available. Congratulations on receiving this very special award. You deserve it, and thanks to your beautiful wife, Ava, for all the magnificent support you've given to our Los Angeles community. And my beautiful wife, Malgosia, joins me in wishing you Godspeed, and may you continue to succeed and prosper in everything that you do. Thank you.
Nice words indeed.